Hi, everyone. This is Michele Graglia.
This is Marianne Hogan.
Hi, I'm Adrian McDonald.
I'm Katie Asmith.
Hi, this is Anthony Gasals.
Hi, my name is Meg Morgan.
Hey, it's Jordan Trove.
This is John Ray.
This is Ryan Van Duzer, and you are listening to the Gotta Run Racing Podcast.
Hello.
Hey, everyone. We are back with another Gotta Run Racing Podcast.
I'm Jody.
And I'm Norm.
Today I'm feeling a little retro if you're watching the video version of this episode because I'm wearing my Chase the Coyote trucker hat signed by my running idols Dean Karnas and Rob Clark.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't worn this baby in a while. We still get people asking us for this hat. Unfortunately, it is long sold out.
Yeah, long gone.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into today's podcast, give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters.
Yes, Patreon, we love you.
Yes, if you want to be a Patreon supporter, please head on over to patreon.com/GottaRunRacingPodcast.
We really appreciate any support that you can give us because we have big plans for this year. We want to expand, we want to grow, we want to attend more races locally and otherwise, and talk to the people.
Yeah, just keep giving you some amazing content.
That's right.
And what's happening in the world of Gotta Run Racing?
Well, we have some exciting news for our in-person races. We have a new sponsor, and that is Shocks.
Wow.
I know, right?
I am in shock.
Shocks makes bone conduction headphones, meaning they have headphones that do not go in your ear and inhibit your ability to hear your surroundings. We've been using them for quite a few years now. They're fantastic, and they have graciously donated Open Run Pro. Show them, Norm.
Here we go. Now we say no headphones allowed in our races, but...
We do, but we make an exception for bone conduction.
There you go.
And Shocks is the best bone conduction out there. So we've got 3 pairs of these babies. We're going to raffle one off at each of our races. So if you haven't signed up yet, sign up. These are worth $230 Canadian.
Whoa.
And they are amazing headphones. So thank you, Shocks.
Thank you for supporting us. And our 3 races that you signed up for are...
Lost Treasure Trail Race, May 18th. Rainbow Trail Run, July 27th.
And Island Lake Classic, Labor Day.
Labor Day Monday.
See you there.
All right.
And who's on the podcast today?
Today we have Jonathan Albon. He's a 34-year-old multidiscipline athlete, originally from the UK, now living in Norway with his wife. John has left his mark on many sports, including obstacle course racing, where he recently took home the largest prize in OCR history by crossing the line first in Saudi Arabia, completing an astounding 100 kilometers in 8 hours with 20 obstacles per 10K lap. I can't. Anyways, he has some equally impressive results in trail and ultra running, including top spots at OCC and CCC in recent years, as well as third in the short trail distance at the World Mountain and Trail Championships in Thailand in 2022. He has twice won the final ranking of Sky Extreme Series and has once been the overall winner of the Skyrunner World Series. John and his wife, Henriette, who's also an accomplished professional trail runner, have created a training app, which we can't wait to ask him about.
Yeah, that's all coming up. Now, this is incredible, the fact that he's going to be our first OCR athlete on our podcast, but that in itself is an ultra.
Yes, and he's going to be running Western, so we've got lots to talk about.
That's right. Here's John coming up.
Welcome to the podcast, John, and congratulations on your recent win at the Tough Mudder in Saudi Arabia, where you earned yourself a sweet little paycheck, which we'll get into soon. But how are you feeling? How's the recovery going?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Recovery, it feels good. The main issues I had in the race was muscular stiffness. So I don't think I was prepared for running that distance, running in the sand and doing obstacles. So I generally feel like my engine was prepared and my engine didn't get used as much as it could have during the race. So that's actually recovering relatively quickly, but I still need to wait a few more days for my hamstrings to be ready to run, I think.
Yeah, because sand doesn't exactly equal snow, and we definitely know that feeling.
Yeah,
for sure. And actually here, there's so much snow that you can't run on it. There's not many places people sort of like pack down a trail. So it's either kind of icy road running or treadmill running, which really doesn't cut it. And I mean, I've been mainly skiing anyway, but I have actually really tried to keep the running miles and kilometers there because I'm doing Western States, and it was always a plan to try and run a bit more during the winter. So this was a good opportunity to have something relatively early in the year, which forced me to keep that running mileage up.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, we are strictly an ultra running podcast, but can you tell our listeners what is a Tough Mudder and all the obstacles that is involved in Tough Mudder race?
Yeah, sure. Obstacle racing is kind of like, it's like as a racing sport about 10 years old, and it's a running race, but there's lots of obstacles that you have to do on your way around. They can vary from crawling under things, jumping over things, climbing stuff, carrying stuff, a lot of hanging off things and swinging in between things these days with the Ninja Warrior type influence. But it's kind of like a sport that tests you in a little bit more than just, putting one foot in front of the other. But apart from that, it is a running race, just with a little bit of extra stuff thrown in.
Well, that's the thing. It is, in fact, an ultra because you're doing 100K, going all kinds of loops, 10K loops. But what obstacle did you keep dreading have to repeat 10 times?
I think, to be honest, no matter like whether there's really hard obstacles or really easy obstacles, you always think about that obstacle which is hardest maybe for you, or that you might fail, because we did actually have wristbands. And if you failed any obstacles, you had to then do penalty loops. And the only obstacle that I really thought I could end up failing is the balance beam, because, I mean, you're in slightly higher stacked shoes, balance beams, it's quite easy just to accidentally just fall off, you lose concentration, and the wind did get up a lot as well. So the one that I figured I could fail was the balance beam. But to be honest, there was a lot of crawling, and crawling on sandy, gritty, horrible, rocky ground is just awful. So I actually wore tights pretty much for the protection it would give my knees. So I didn't dread getting down on my knees and crawling again and again and again.
I don't know. My mind is so blown, the fact that you're covering as many kilometers as some of the pros do in just a running race, but yet you're doing all of these obstacles. I can't quite wrap my head around that.
At the same time.
At the same time, and it doesn't seem to slow you down. I'm just so impressed by that, because we've loosely followed OCR over the years, and it seems like it's getting more intense, more harder, more challenging. Are they trying to make these races more difficult, do you find?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think obstacle racing has certainly changed through the years. If you turn back time, it used to be a lot more just like a mud run with just some ditches and some crawling, and the challenge was really a bit more natural, whereas now there's a lot more man-made obstacles and also a lot more convoluted obstacles that almost require a rule book for each one. So you're allowed to use your feet on this one, but not on this one. You're allowed to touch these bars, but not those bars, and a lot more hanging grip intense obstacles, which have become like a lot more complicated. But then that sort of more raw side of obstacle racing, where you got really cold and had to swim a lot and sort of went over and through hundreds of ditches in a row, is kind of receded a little bit. But then this race definitely did feel a little bit more old school. There weren't that many hanging obstacles. It was a lot more crawling. It was a bit more sort of simple. So I think the main obstacle for this one really was going to be the heat. But thankfully it wasn't that hot. We had rain in the morning and the wind got up and we had a bit of cloud cover. So I was kind of happy for that. And also the sand. And running in sand, it is different to snow. It's not nice. I think, if anything, you should be more of a cyclist to be able to move on sand well than a runner, because that running stride is kind of negated when every footfall kind of gets sort of like sucked backwards. It wasn't the softest sand it could have been. It was about 50-50, 50% hard sand, 50% sort of softer sand, but none of those really horrible sand dunes where you take 3 steps forward and you slide 2 steps backwards. So that certainly did allow us to do more kilometers. But then with more kilometers meant my legs just weren't prepared for that, because it's just so early in the season. So it was kind of crazy. Like it is not often I would really have ever contemplated running 100 kilometers in February. But then when someone says, do you run 8 hours in February? It's like, well, yeah, okay, that doesn't sound so bad. And I didn't really connect the dots that it was going to be that far.
And how does it work on your last lap? Do they let you go out even though you don't have necessarily enough time, and then they count your kilometer to where you stop at the 8 hour mark?
No, so it was an 8 hour laps race and it was 10 kilometer laps. So we had 8 hours to do as many laps as possible, but you had an extra hour to finish that last lap. So that means you could go out for another lap as long as you came in before the 8 hour mark. But then if you didn't complete that lap, they didn't really count sort of part of that lap. It just kind of rolled back to where you finished, the position you finished the lap before. And I did actually come in my 10th lap 2 minutes before the 8 hour mark. So I could have gone out for another one, but I'd done the math and there was no way second place was going to come in within 2 minutes. So I was very glad to stop there. And the fact I didn't have to do another one made me very happy.
I'm sure. So we reached out to one of our listeners, Brent, who is a OCR guy and a trail runner, because we thought, let's get a question from someone that really follows this sport. And we've never done this before on our podcast. So here's our first go at having a listener question. So he asks, how do you balance your training for OCR with sky mountain running? Example, training for grip and carries, which I don't even know what that means, while not sacrificing speed.
To be honest, I mean, I've actually done mostly just trail running for the past 2 years. So that means obstacle race training has kind of been on the back foot. But even then, before, when I was doing both trail running and obstacle racing, my specific training for obstacle racing just really wasn't there. I was mainly training for the trail running, and then I was going climbing, which was a really fun form of grip strength training and a really nice form of strength training. It's very functional and it's a fun sport in itself. So that means it never felt like a chore to go and work on my grip strength. And that's what I did into this race. I did start going climbing, and I have like a little hanging routine on a hangboard that I did, and I do that sort of maybe twice a week. And then I did one workout where I did a heat training workout on the treadmill, and then I went out into -5 or whatever it was outside and did a run where I did some burpees every 5 minutes. And I ran to this military area and I did a few obstacles, and then I ran home again doing some burpees every 5 minutes. So that was my main specific training for this race. And to be honest, this was a training race for me in a sense. My main focus is towards Western states. So I actually only planned in 1 week of real focused training ready for the Tough Mudder in Saudi.
Well, clearly you had a great base heading into it, because obviously it worked out for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think my base at this time of year is always as strong as it can be, but my leg adaptation or acclimatization to being able to run well, or at least run for a long time, it's lowest. So then it's the point when those two cross that you've still got some base left, but you've acclimatized your legs to the running, which is when you can have your best races. And that was the problem I had. I had a good base fitness, but my legs just weren't ready for the distance.
I'm wondering too, I just want to ask the question because we're also big fans of tennis, and there's a big controversy right now about the players going to tournaments in the Middle East. I'm just curious if you had any hesitation morally with attending a race there. And you know what? No judgment, because the money that they're offering to attend these events, totally get it.
It's a very valid question, and it is something I thought about. But then there's things I agree with in most countries and things I disagree with in most countries. I mean, even going to the States to run a running race, it's not as if I agree with everyone having a gun. And I don't really think about the fact that I'm going to America. So I haven't really thought too much about it, to be honest. Yeah. And it was a very good opportunity for me to make some prize money, which is going to allow me then to improve my training facilities and sort of like further my own athletic career. So it's not something I got too bogged down in thinking about. I was actually contemplating more whether it would help me in my running season or whether it would hinder me in my running season. And the moral side of things didn't play so much a part. I mean, I probably should have done more research into it, but that's the way it happened.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a very valid statement, because when you're in the North American culture, and it's happening in Canada too, where gun violence is such a huge factor, yet they sort of push that down as it's just the norm, which is horrible. But
there's good and bad in every country.
We have to look within just as much as how can you point fingers when no one's innocent in anything in this world anymore?
No one is perfect, that is for sure.
Yeah. But it's quite fascinating that it's happening throughout so many different sports, and it's great for our sport because we're extremely underpaid, in my opinion, compared to what you guys do and how many hours are spent in the actual sport itself. If you translate the hours spent to the money earned, it's pennies per hour, realistically.
Compared to some mainstream sports, we certainly aren't paid quite as much as some other athletes. But then I like to think that we're rewarded in other ways. And one of them is the fact that trail running is an exceptionally fun sport. So I guess we're not paid as much money, but we're paid more in enjoyment, maybe.
Good point.
And another thing that we've talked about with other athletes is the fact that I can't think of another sport where the amateurs can line up at the same start line as the elites, the pros, which is, I hope that doesn't change.
Yeah, it's fun. And also that is actually not in this race, but in obstacle racing, what has allowed them to have higher prize pots, because it is a mass participation sport. There's a lot of people doing them. They're paying to do them. And then they're trying to then put that money back into the sport by then providing a prize pot for the elites. Whereas I think with this race, it was more coming from the Saudi government and whatnot. But I do like the fact that, people can go and take part in the sport and they can be inspired. And it is, both sports are certainly very healthy for you, or at least training for them is healthy. Maybe the actual doing of them isn't so healthy, because I don't think the human body was really made to undergo what we ask of it. But I think definitely like the lifestyle and the training for the events can be very healthy. And the fact that the sports are so varied means you can train in a way which means you can still perform at a high level, but have a relatively healthy body. I do think fitness and health are two very different things. Mm-hmm. And in some sports, fitness really does take priority and health really doesn't, whereas you can almost strike a healthy balance between the two within obstacle racing and trail running.
Yeah, great point.
Well, you also beat our fellow Canadian, Ryan Atkins. You know him, obviously you raced against him, you raced with him several times. And we do know Ryan and Lindsay well. They did live down the street from us. Yeah. And they competed in one of our events, Chase the Coyote. But they also recently just started getting to skyrunning. Did you have anything to do with that, getting them into skyrunning?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, Ryan and Lindsay are great people, and we go way back now. It's funny how time flies. But yeah, I know, especially Lindsay did have a great skyrunning season, and she came over to Europe for a few races and she did really well. But it is a thing within trail running as well, that there's so many different series. It's hard. Like that year, I didn't do any sky running at all. I actually did the Golden Trail series. So it's a shame we didn't cross paths so much. But yeah, no, it's great that they're sort of spreading their wings a little bit and trying some other sports, because I definitely think that trail running is a little bit more of a competitive sport, and you kind of need that in order to keep pushing your limits and keep pushing your boundaries and improving. So there's certainly a lot of challenging races out there, and it's just good to improve and to compare yourself to these great athletes. So I think that like not only can they be very successful within trail running, it's also going to improve their obstacle racing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do have a skyrunning event here in Canada called Meet the Minotaur, and it's
my wife will be coming for it.
Yes,
yeah,
good.
awesome.
Unfortunately, I will not be, because I think it's maybe the week before Western.
Yeah.
So I'll be down. Yeah, I guess in the sort of California kind of down near San Francisco, sort of Tahoe type area, and Henriette will fly up for the sky race. So that'll be fun. She'll have to report back to me what it was like.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you if you're ever going to race it in the future, because it's deemed the hardest of the series according to the elite. Anyway.
Okay, excellent. That's interesting, because stereotypically, maybe not for Canada, but for American trail races are generally a little bit less technical and a little bit not easier, just different. So yeah, it'll be fun to hear her opinion on that. And I mean, it's a hard thing with skyrunning because skyrunning was a very nail sport. You know, there was a lot of scrambling. It was almost like mountaineering, but moving fast. And then to become a bit more mainstream, they had to dial it back a little bit, and they got more events and more athletes, and it had to become a little bit less technical and things. And then now with Golden Trail Series and sort of some other series coming about, it does seem that skyrunning is having to go back to its roots a little bit and really say, no, we are a technical running race, and get back to sort of, you know, that sort of like DNA. So it's really cool that they do have some great technical races, because it is really fun to move in that terrain. And that's actually something that I enjoy the most, especially within training.
The winner of last year from France, he won the one in Meet the Minotaur, and he said it was the absolute hell that he went through, according to every other race that he's done in skyrunning. So that'll be interesting stuff. Yeah, I can't wait to hear what she thinks about it.
There's so many similarities between OCR and trail running. Are you surprised that more athletes aren't crossing over to dip their hand in either sport? I'd love to see a Jim Walmsley or a Courtney DeWalter attempt obstacle, but I can't picture it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I was certainly expecting more people to be at this race, especially with the prize up for grabs. And I was expecting the actual obstacle races to take it a little bit more seriously, or to be better prepared as well. But maybe that was just, I was having a very good day and sort of didn't see their best. But a lot of even the obstacle races did the team event. So it didn't really feel like there was even that many of us going for the individual. And it was really well paid up until 10th place. But as for trail runners going to obstacle racing, I'm sure they would do well, at least some of them, and I'm sure some of them would just absolutely hate it, because it's very type 2 fun. I mean, getting down on the ground, crawling, throwing yourself over a wall and landing on the other side and having that impact in your legs. It's tough for the body in a very different way. It's not just putting one foot in front of the other. Yeah. So it would be really interesting, especially to see Courtney run, because nothing seems to stop Courtney. So she doesn't seem to be human. So it would be interesting to see how well she'd do. And there is the World Stuff is another 24-hour obstacle race, which would be, I mean, it would be incredible to see her on there and see how well she could do.
It sure would. Another event that we want to ask you about was the Festival de Templar in the south of France, which you've won the 80K a couple of times. I think it's celebrating its 30th year this year. And just from what I saw on their website, this is a tough race, 3,500 meters and 80 kilometers. It looks kind of unique. They give you a nice laurel wreath at the finish line and a really cool handmade trophy. Can you tell us a bit about that event? Because we'd never heard of it before.
It is a really, really nice trail race, which is in Chamonix. So I guess it's a lot of trail racing seems to be around in the Alps area. Whereas Templiers, it's a really old race. It's actually, I think, France's oldest trail race. And it's a little bit more runnable. So especially the first half is very fast, a little bit sort of easier trails, a little bit less technical, but then especially the last 15 kilometers is steeper and is more technical. And that has actually meant that more Americans have come over to try it. It has been a very big international event, and they always have a relatively good prize purse there as well. So I really do like that event. It's just different to the others. It's a bit more trail running rather than mountain running in sort of my definition. It is sort of a bit more rolling. You can have a bit more speed, and it does start very, very fast. And it's just a beautiful area with this sort of flat plains, but then it drops into sort of canyons normally, and it's held in the autumn. So you've got the sort of like the autumn leaf color, and then a bit of a cloud inversion with some fog in the valleys. It's just a really nice race.
I love the rabbit hole that I sometimes go down when I'm looking at our guests' races, because I came across that one, and then I somehow ended up on this other race called it's in Malau, where the viaduct is.
Okay, yeah, so that's the town.
Okay.
Where Templiers.
There's a road race that goes across the highest viaduct in Europe, I believe, and it just looks stunning. So I said to Norm, well, we're going to be doing that one, so let's add that to our never-ending list of races.
Yeah. Yeah,
very
no,
cool.
that's certainly one I haven't done, but it is a beautiful area. So whether you could go for Montpellier or the Viaduct race, I'm sure you'll enjoy yourself. And it's really nice. There's a lot of other distances in that week, but it definitely is a festival, and it feels like a very small personal event full of locals and everyone's happy, but on a big scale because there's 9,000 people running. So it's just kind of, you get that sort of, nice community feeling, but on steroids. It's really a nice atmosphere.
That's really difficult to do.
Yeah,
When you
for
think
sure.
about it. Yeah.
Because it's a great finish line in Chamonix, especially during UTMB week. But then the majority of people maybe watching haven't done a race, or they're tourists, or they're just there for holidays. Whereas it seems like for Templier, the people that are there watching and cheering on you, they've also done a race, and everyone because they just love trail running, and that is a sort of different sort of feeling when you're running.
Love that.
Last year, you won CC, which earned you a ticket to Western States. And that would be your first attempt at a 100-mile without obstacles. Is that correct?
True. Yeah.
So how long has Western States been on your radar?
Hey guys, if you like what you're hearing so far, then check this out. Calling all trail runners to come on out to Mansfield, Ontario this May. The Lost Treasure Trail Race features both a 5 and 10K on the beautiful trails of the Mansfield Outdoor Center. As the story goes, the American outlaw Jesse James buried a barrel full of gold coins stolen from a train on his relative's property somewhere in the hills of Mulmer. You'll earn your very own coin medal when you cross the finish line. Registration is now open. For more info, go to GottaRunRacing.com. Now back to Jody and Norm.
To be honest, it's always been on my radar because it is a very big, famous, cool-looking race with some great athletes that have done some incredible things there, and it's got a really rich history. But to be honest, a lot of the decisions I've made in my running career have been very accidental. I started running when I was 20, and normally how I'd pick which events I'm going to do is people would ask me to go to them, and I'd say yes. And I kind of think I almost lost that thing in the past 2 years. Maybe like I made more decisions, or sponsors came in and they had things I wanted to do, and Henriette made decisions for me. And then I've always found the most success, and I've had the most fun, and sort of like been the most relaxed and the best experience when it has been a bit more random, or I've just, followed that path, not of least resistance, but that is just set out for me. And when I won the golden ticket for Western States, I had no idea that was even a ticket race. And I just got an email saying, You've got an entry for Western States if you want it. And I thought, well, let's go for it then and see what happens.
Wow, what a nice surprise.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, a nice surprise. But then having just run CCC, which is 100 kilometers, then you get an email 2 days later saying, you have just one entry into 160 kilometers. You have to decide in the next 10 days. It actually leaves you a little bit tired and stressed, to be honest. But it wasn't a hard decision to make, and I'm looking forward to the experience. And I'm also looking forward to the fact that it is my first 100-miler. I hate pressure. I hate to be a favorite, and I hate expectation. And I shouldn't have that in this race. There's other great athletes which have done very special things on that course. I'm definitely shouldn't be the favorite. I just want to go, have a good run, see how I do. And normally that's how the races play out the best for me. So hopefully I can keep that mindset all the way through to race day, but it's easier said than done.
Who were you looking forward to racing against, or just being there on the start line with?
I guess actual people. I guess if Jim does race, it'd be super interesting to run with him. But then usually, to be honest, I'm very sort of self-centered. I'm just going to concentrate on my own race, my own pacing, my own fueling, and just my own experience with the course. Normally, I actually prefer running alone. I absolutely hate running behind someone else. And if I'm normally happiest when I'm just running alone. Normally, actually, if I'm in the lead, that's when I'm absolutely happiest. But we'll see how the race plays out. I think the knowledge that some of the athletes have about how to execute this race is far beyond my own. I've been on maybe 5% of the course when I've been at the Spartan World Championships in Tahoe. I haven't run a 100-mile trail race before. It's very hot, which generally doesn't suit me. The beginning, at least, is at elevation, which again doesn't suit me. I live at level. There's so many things that I need to try and focus on myself. Then thinking about racing the other athletes really does sort of like take a back seat because I've got my own problems to deal with.
Now, you mentioned that you're going to head to California a little bit early. How early are you doing that?
That is undecided. So tickets have not been booked. And I am not the admin person of the household. My wife will plan everything for me and she'll make some key decisions. And that's the way I like it. So I'm waiting for her to make a decision. To be honest, to go out 2 or 3 weeks early would probably be ideal because I do thrive best when I'm at home and I train best when I'm at home. But I do have to get out. Seeing the course will be very beneficial. Experiencing the heat before the race and some altitude would be very good as well. It's just I need to be able to do it in a way that makes me feel like I'm comfortable. I have to feel like I'm at home for me to absorb training and for me to be rested and sort of like be happy and healthy. So it's sort of like trying to create that atmosphere for me. I guess I do race well abroad. It's just I don't travel that well. Maybe I'm just happiest when I'm at home. So we'll see. I'm definitely not going to be doing the classic head out for 3 months before and go to Flagstaff for some kilometers with all the best runners over there and sort of spin my legs that way. So I will be training for it in my own way. And that will include a lot more skiing in the months to come. But as for when I'll be heading out, it's not been decided yet.
Okay.
I'm excited, but also a little bit scared. It does seem like a rather large undertaking. And the fact that it's such a runnable course, it does mean that if you're not prepared, there's no hiding behind your hiking poles and there's no sort of downhill to sort of have a bit of a rest or uphill to sort of let your legs sort of have a slightly different training stimulus where you can hike. It's kind of, if you're not prepared for it properly, it could be quite obvious.
Well, the one thing I wasn't prepared for is that there was nobody there until 1 minute before the start off. The gun goes off 1 minute before. Nobody was there.
Yeah.
That weird.
Was surprising.
It was weird.
With 1 minute left, they all just started walking towards the start line, which is very weird.
That's good. That's my sort of style, though. I like that. And I also am sort of interested to see how it's going to be with the fact that there won't be any kit list. I've never raced a trail race in the US, and like just being able to run with a running belt and not even a shirt if you don't want to for 100 miles is crazy to me. I mean, normally you've got to have waterproof jacket, trousers, survival bivy bag, whistle, phone. I mean, the list goes on and on. Whereas with this, I'm even going to have a pacer that can run with me. It's not even something I've thought about because it's like, someone could just join me and just run with me. Like, how strange is that?
You should get Ryan to come run with you.
Yeah, could you? Yeah. He did say that he's going to be going out for a mountain expedition, but maybe that was a little bit early. So, it's something I will have to start thinking about because I'm sure even though they're not allowed to give you food and drink, having someone to chat to is maybe nice, but really having someone to navigate for you so you don't have to look up and try and see the flags when you've already been running for 10 hours. That does sound like it would help quite a lot.
Well, that's interesting because all you need is a handheld. But to make things fair for the other competitors, you should wear a 50-pound weighted vest as you're running this car.
Because there's no obstacle.
As you're running Western, that would make things fair when you're running against somebody else.
I'm not sure. I think Jim should be wearing a 60-pound vest.
There you go.
I mean, I don't even know what a handheld is, so that's not something I've even had used before. So
oh no,
I'm going to have to really try and in that 3 weeks before, I'm going to have to really try and Americanize myself with the style of racing.
However, the white tights, very European of you. I think you need to sport those just to throw the other competitors off.
Yeah, I mean, it might have looked stupid, but I guess $80,000 isn't stupid. So, I mean, they worked really well, though, to be honest. I mean, it was probably one of the best decisions I made because they when they got wet, they kept me cool. They protected my knees from the sand. And to be honest, I mean, once they turned that sort of red, sandy coloured and looked like I wasn't wearing anything at all, I mean, that must have put off my competitors. So it was all good.
I think that the last person who wore white tights at Western was Clean Journey.
Yes.
Yeah, but they were hardly tights. I think they were about this long.
Yeah, they weren't tights. They were short. Booty shorts.
Nevertheless.
That's fun. But also, Killian, I believe he hardly ate and drank while he was running. He was only in the aid stations on that day. So I'm sure there's a few things Killian would do differently again if he did Western. Nowadays, I think he'd definitely probably have a handheld or a flexi bottle in a belt, and he'd probably eat a little bit more through the course.
Is UTMB on your bucket list, wish list?
So UTMB, I have actually entered. Well, actually, Henriette entered me, but I am absolutely 100% certain that I am only going to concentrate on Western States, and after Western States, I'm going to try my very best to recover until I feel I'm recovered, and not start training for UTMB until I do feel like I have a good sort of control of where I'm at, because I think the worst thing you can do is concentrate on both at the same time too soon after Western, try and get back into training, try and reach the same training load or volume or sort of where you were before Western, but it's never going to happen in that short amount of time. So, I mean, I'm just going to get Western over with, and I'm entered for UTMB. If I've got any injuries or am I feeling like I'm not recovered, I can always defer that entry. So it's there if I want it, but one thing at a time.
Yeah, that's a tough doubleheader for sure.
Yeah.
Very tough. Well, let's move on to the training app that you and Henriette have developed. Can you tell us about the app?
It was really born from just how I see training or how I plan my own training. And it was a system that was just spawned from that because I wanted something to use for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then we turned it into the app. I used the app, and then we tried to sort of include some functions so other people could use it as well, and change things to sort of make it possible for them to use it. And a lot of people have really enjoyed it. So that's really fun. It's very different to just a bog standard training plan, which is both great and also has got some negatives. But it's very much a case of it helps you coach yourself. And hopefully it gives you it's the tool you need to be able to coach yourself. Because I coach people, but to be honest, I prefer it when people learn what works for them, and then they can apply that year on year and gain the knowledge and the skills so they can actually self-coach, because only the athlete knows the athlete best. They know themselves best. So I think it is really good if you can then connect dots and then just use people as sounding boards. So we actually have a social wall in there so people can ask questions and normally reply within a day, and they can talk to other athletes, listen to podcasts and get all this knowledge. But I do think it's very much like a tool you can use alongside that. So it's a tool you can use to coach yourself. So there's a lot of flexibility. You can move things around. You could choose different workouts within there. You can choose different progressions. And hopefully it is easy to use for the person that isn't quite as confident in making their own decisions. But that confidence does come through time. And I'm always there on the social board to reply if people have got questions. So it's been a lot of fun putting it together, and it's a lot of fun working on it. And I certainly do think it's helped my training, and to see how other people use it and their own experiences has helped me as well. So the whole experience has been great.
It's called the AlbonApp.
Yeah, I lost that battle. I would never have called it that, but there's 4 of us involved and I got outvoted. So it's called AlbonApp.
And you can download it anywhere, and you can have a free service, or you can pay extra if you want the extra service. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so it's on Android and Apple. There is a free version, but then within that, we've just locked a few functions. So then you can only plan one race at a time. So that means you can't create a full season plan. Things like there's strength training workouts in there that come with a timer where I'm doing the exercise and you just do it at the same time as me. That's locked, for example. A few other things like nutrition advice is locked. So we've just restricted the amount you can use within the app just to sort of create that free version, because then we would prefer if more people paid for it, obviously, but then we do have the social wall as well that you're paying for, so you can get that full service and hopefully feel like you're almost being personally coached, but for 5% of the cost. I mean, it's, I think, somewhere between $25 and $35 a month, and there's a yearly option as well.
So that's very reasonable. And your whole team is some form of athlete, so whoever's answering the question has the knowledge to lend, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like there's 4 of us, we're all athletes, and it's still a hobby project. We still have full-time jobs, even though mine is being an athlete. But I really enjoy helping other people, and this is something where I can help other people en masse. And I do really enjoy just analyzing training and finding better ways to improve. And I do feel that over the years, I have amassed quite a lot of knowledge, which is fun to spread. But then also I do feel that a lot of the training platforms out there are very much based off road running, but then just on steroids to make it into a trail running plan. Whereas I do feel like we have a lot of very specific trail running and obstacle racing sessions and workouts and things in there, which are very much for trail running. So the training ethos even is different to road running. And it's a very sort of rounded product, which isn't just getting you as fit as possible, because that is only one piece of the puzzle. It's also working on a lot of other pieces of the puzzle, which you need, like fueling and race planning and leg conditioning for both uphill and for downhill. So there's a lot more to it than just, if you can hit these numbers on your tempo treadmill sessions, then you'll run your trail race as good as possible. It's not quite as simple as that with trail running.
No, exactly. Well, that sounds awesome. I definitely want to check it out, and we'll post some links in the show notes for people that want to check it out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun, and also when people do check it out, it's always great to get feedback, because we have made it that you can adjust your weekly commitment level, we call it. So that means I'm commitment level 5 or 6. That's the amount of training I get in a week. But then you can turn that down to say, I normally do 3s or 4s. But then if I'm going away on holiday and I have more time because I've not got work that week, I can try 5. And that way you can continually turn your commitment level up and down. And it's always great to hear people's experience with that system and to see how it works for them.
I love that, because oftentimes if you have a week where you've not been able to put the workouts in, then you feel guilty, and then that rolls into I didn't get that workout in, now I'm off the plan. And I think that's an easy excuse for people to kind of spiral. Whereas if you have the flexibility and you can see that just because you have 1 week where you didn't complete all your sessions, but the next week you're back on target, you don't have that guilt association of.
And it really is a case that flexibility does work. It's hard to trust. And that's a battle we've had, that people don't trust it because it's not a digital set system where if I do these intervals on that Tuesday, 6 months later, I'm going to have a great race. I mean, that's not how it works. It very much is. Training is analog, and it's how you make the training mesh with your everyday life, say family life and work life.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of, relationship between them is all important. So normally we're talking about this wave. You've got to build this wave nice and small. And then you've got to get that wave, that training sort of, rhythm and continuity past 3 weeks, because that's always the point. Everyone gets to 3 weeks and then it's either, oh my God, I can't do that for another 3 weeks, or they've made it manageable and they keep it going. And then that consistency is all important. So that's sort of what half the system is built for. And I mean, even this week, I just got back from the race, and I had that into a training race. That means the app didn't plan in any recovery for me whatsoever. It was down to me to plan in my own recovery. So I put my commitment on commitment 4 this week, and I might even skip one of the key sessions. And I've done all the workouts as cross training, because you can either choose to do the workouts running or cross training. Usually at the beginning of this base building phase, I'm doing more cross training and then steadily start doing more of the workouts running. And that's what I'm doing this week. I'm managing the recovery myself. I've turned the commitment level down and I'm doing more cross training. And that is possible with the system. And then next week, I'll hopefully be back up on commitment 5 and then commitment 6 is in the next couple of weeks as well. We'll just see how we go.
Very cool.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely going to be watching you in June, and all the best at Western for sure.
No pressure. No pressure.
I have actually got Transocania as my lead-in race for Western as well. So I will be racing before Western, but it'll be slightly shorter, but probably hot and relatively high as well. And that'll be a fun one.
Did you say Transvolcania? It kind of cut out a bit. Ooh.
Transvolcania.
Wow.
Funny.
Nice.
Very nice.
Well, try that race with a handheld and see how you do.
Yeah, I was planning on trying to have it as a race simulation within the app, where I am expected to test shoes, test clothing. Maybe I'll bring out the white tights. Who knows? Maybe I'll bring out a hand bottle. And that will be definitely like a dry run ready for Western. So obviously I want to do well at the race, but testing everything ready for Western will be one of the key focuses.
Nice.
All right, John, before we let you go, we like to do a little rapid fire just for fun at the end of our podcast. So if you don't mind indulging us, what's a TV show that you're embarrassed to say you watch?
Me and Henriette watch Friends every night for the past couple of months, and we normally watch the entire Friends series, and then we start again after another couple of months. It's quite nice evening, relaxed watching material. So I guess that's slightly embarrassing.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Would you rather be a professional writer, painter, or musician?
I'm artistically challenged, so I would suck at all of them. But I'm sure writing would be the where I'd be most successful. But I'm definitely, I would be dreadful.
What's your go-to meal after a really tough race or workout?
Chocolate milk straight after workout is always a win. Then my go-to meal is actually chicken katsu curry. There's a Japanese restaurant based out of, I think it's the UK, called Wagamama's. So whenever I have the opportunity to go to a Wagamama's to have a chicken katsu curry, I'm there. Usually with a few side orders of plain noodles as well.
Nice. How's your Norwegian?
Yeah, it goes up and down. I guess sort of similar to my running shape. It got better during Corona because I took lessons. I took the language test and got my citizenship. So I got a Norwegian passport. And then I'm sure it's got worse since then.
All right. Well, then I can ask you this question. So if you're running on the trail and you stub your toe, what would the curse word in Norwegian be?
Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Maybe farn, which is on. Yeah, I guess that would be an okay one.
That would be good. That would be good.
Is it fun?
Fan. Yeah, fan. Like I believe it's got one of those extra Norwegian letters which they decided to add into their app, which is which is an A with an E stuck together. And the way I remember that one is the A and the E are stuck together, and it's kind of like they're stuck together, and that's the sound.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that for sure. Now you've raced around the world. What country have you not raced in yet that you'd really like to experience?
New Zealand would be a great place to visit, and a little bit less dangerous animal-wise than Australia. So it'd be great to get down to New Zealand. Actually, me and Henriette would love to live a year in New Zealand to sort of like experience all the seasons. For what I expect is the Canadian/Norwegian version of the Southern Hemisphere. So
I was just going to say, if she wants to experience New Zealand, she's going to love Alberta. For sure. Okay, Norm.
Pick a superpower that you'd like to have.
Being able to stomach gels indefinitely, I guess, would help with racing.
That would be a superpower.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a good one. I'm surprised more people haven't said that, actually. All right, John. Well, we really appreciate the time today, and it's been great chatting with you. And again, we wish you all the best at Western, and hopefully we'll see you more on the ultra running scene in North America.
And we might see you there.
Yeah, sounds good. No, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for having me. It's always fun to chat.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, all the best.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Right. And that was Jon Albon, fresh off his win in Saudi Arabia with a big fat check.
I still can't wrap my head around the fact that he did
100K
in 8 hours.
8 hours with constant obstacles continuously.
That's an obstacle every 500 meters.
And his worst, or the most one that gave him some sort of trouble, was the balance beam. I can see that after running.
Oh my gosh. I can't do balance beam on a good day, let alone
on your first hour. Imagine 7 hours later.
Oh man.
Trying to balance yourself.
Well,
nevertheless.
I like what he said, that he's going into Western for the experience, and if he happens to have a good day, then so be it. But he's going to lead the charge. Because he said he prefers to lead than follow. Therefore, he's going to go like a bat out of hell up the ski hill. Can
you imagine if he carries two big 20 pounds up the ski hill? First one up there.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Well, that would be his first 100-miler without obstacles. So that is going to be interesting in itself.
It sure will be. And we'll be watching. I'm definitely going to check out his app because I like the idea that it's flexible, that you can move things around.
The AlbonApp,
AlbonApp.
created by professional athletes.
I like the sound of the app because it sounds flexible and you can move things around.
You can watch his training videos and how he does cross training and
ask questions,
and you'll get an answer.
Which is important because if you just have a blanket plan that you're following, you're not quite sure if you're doing something right. It's hard to get feedback. Feedback is the biggest key.
That's right.
To a plan, I believe.
Yeah, and you can sign up for free or get the extended version with $25 a month, and he will be there on the other line.
You got it.
On the other side of the app. Well, we're looking forward to him at Western States, and if you enjoyed our chat with him, please leave us a rating review. We much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Cheers.
Bye.